I'm your host, Davina Shinsky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits Dreams Come True with the Right Mindset. Today's presentation is 5 times when you don't need to apologize and why it's okay. We hear a lot about the power of the apology, and inevitably that we are going to be times when we need to sincerely apologize. We all make mistakes. However, over apologizing far more common than you might think. Even worse, you could be apologizing for something that you shouldn't be sorry about. Did you actually do anything wrong? If you found yourself apologizing when you're not really sorry, apologizing for something out of your control, or apologizing for something that you really shouldn't be sorry for at all, is this presentation we're going to explore when you shouldn't apologize and why. It seems to me sorry means to be the hardest word, said Elton John. So, why is an apology powerful? Let's be clear. There is a time and a place for a meaningful, necessary apology. If you've hurt somebody's feelings or done something that you shouldn't have, then you may need to offer a sincere apology. An apology is defined as an acknowledgement of a mistake, regret, or asking forgiveness for some fault. Saying you're sorry can patch up relationships, smooth things over at work, and deal with any harm or hurt that you might have caused. However, the real power of an apology is in its sincerity. People can usually tell when a person is truly sorry or something they've done, and opposed to simply offering an apology because they feel like they should. If you plan to apologize, make sure that you really are sorry. It's all about the motivation, and half hearted or insincere apologies are a waste of your time and that of the other person. So when shouldn't you apologize? Chances are you can think of some incident when you've apologized, but you shouldn't have done so. For example, maybe somebody bumps into you on the street. It's clearly their fault, but you automatically find yourself uh, shooting off and I'm sorry, only to realize that you're not getting an apology in return. However, there are other more serious incidents when you might find yourself on the brink of apologizing or even expected to apologize by other people, despite the fact that it's not your fault. And here are a few scenarios in which you should not be the one apologizing. When it's not your fault, it seems obvious, but you shouldn't apologize for something that isn't your fault. It doesn't matter if you feel responsible. If you aren't actually responsible for the mistake, you shouldn't apologize. You shouldn't need to apologize for a coworker's mistakes, for something a family member has done, or for anything else that has nothing to do with you. Make sure that you know what your personal responsibilities are, both at work and in your personal life. More importantly, it make sure that you know which things aren't your responsibility. You aren't to blame for those things going wrong. And many a times it's up to you to realize when is the right time to apologize. And the only thing that I'm going to say about this is that I can remember being a child, and at that time when when I got disciplined for something that wasn't my fault, and until I apologized, they were taking away my allowance. And my allowance was a big 50 cents at the time. And the thing is, it was my sister's fault to begin with. But because she was the baby of the family, and because I was the one with the disability that had to, oh, it just had to be my fault. And realize that apologizing, you know, it took me 6 weeks and I finally apologized, but it was a time when I probably shouldn't have apologized. And yet, sometimes when you're a child and you get disciplined and it's not your fault, and yet you get blamed, and it's not like you can sit with someone and discuss it and find out why it happened. Because remember, if you've got a child, talk to them. Tell them what you don't like about their behavior, what you do like. Show them how they should treat you by how you treat them. Two, when it's out of your control. Sometimes life gets out of hand and things happen beyond your control. For example, suppose that you're late for something because of a delayed train or a canceled flight. Realistically, there's nothing at all that you can do about it. And therefore, it's nothing that you can actually apologize for because it's let's put it this way, it's like I take tots, and that because they depend on what's doing with traffic, I can't always expect them to be there within the window time that they say they're going to be there. And yet at the same time, it's very frustrating when you're waiting on someone, so much so that sometimes you you will expect them to apologize, but just remember it's something that's out of their control. So it might inconvenience some people, not least of all yourself, but there is really nothing that you could have done to avoid it. So don't apologize. You may want to offer an explanation as to why you're late, such as explaining that your flight was canceled. However, it's not your fault, and nobody should be ready to blame you or expect an apology. Ultimately, thinking of people for their, or rather, let's say this again. Ultimately, thanking people for their patience is a good way to acknowledge the way that they've been inconvenienced without actually apologizing or taking the blame. Th- Three, when no real mistake has been made, there's a big difference between making a real mistake or just reacting differently to what other people expect. You are an individual and you're handled things differently from another person. A prime example is feeling as though you need to apologize for being emotional or not emotional enough over something that other people feel a certain way over, or using different or unexpected methods to get the correct results. This isn't a mistake, even if other people don't feel that you're acting the right way. So don't apologize. Four, when you've spoken, your mind. As an individual, you have your own opinions. Never apologize for being straightforward and speaking your mind. Of course, there's a difference between speaking your mind or being rude and hurtful. However, there's no need to apologize for having a different opinion from other people or for saying what you really think about something. 5. When you're being yourself, never apologize for being yourself. This can this can connect with the previous two situations where you're speaking your mind or doing things differently from how others expect. This includes having different opinions from other people or even clashing with them as to how something should be handled. At the end of the day, most of the time, don't need to apologize for making your voice heard. The worrying consequences of over apologizing. Over apologizing is more than just being polite. Firstly, apologizing too much dilutes the power of the sincere apology. If you need to say sorry and mean it, your apology will mean nothing because you apologize for things that you don't mean all the time. Secondly, over apologizing can make other people start to blame you automatically. If you apologize for something beyond your control, something that you're not responsible for, or something that doesn't need an apology, others can start to see you as somebody who's always making mistakes, who can't handle anything, or is to blame whenever things go wrong. Last but not least, over apologizing can hurt your own self esteem. You might start to get into a bad mindset, thinking of yourself as worthless or always making mistakes or somehow in- inferior to others. You might find yourself in a situation where you apologize automatically without even stopping to wonder whether it's your fault at all. So, next time, think before you apologize, taking the time to really think about how much you apologize for can help you to work out whether you're over apologizing or not. Sincere apologies are certainly a powerful tool, presuming that you don't overuse them. Figuring out that sweet spot for when the right time to apologize is something that can help you ensure that others trust you and that you trust yourself. It's a fine line, but it's one worth walking. And many a times I can remember that in my sister's case, how many times she would just automatically apologize many years ago for things, whether she did anything wrong or not. But it was just that she was made to feel as though everything she did was wrong, that she was always apologizing. So remember, know when's the right time to apologize and know when it's not the right time to apologize.